What is going on, movie fans? James Patrick here with another ranked video series where we are ranking the OG slasher film, the Halloween franchise. And I will say, I started doing these ranked videos a little over a year ago. And this was the franchise that I wanted to do right off the start, but it's the franchise I hesitated on the most. And the reason I hesitated on doing this franchise is because of the legacy that this franchise carries. I mean, the original Halloween 1978 became the prototypical film that so many films thereafter tried to emulate or tried to copy or tried to pay homage to. And knowing that and knowing the gravitas of that original film and how much that franchise shifted and changed over the last 40 years since it got released, um, certainly was frustrating as a fan and as a devout fan of this franchise. There are 13 films in the Halloween franchise, including the including the offshoot Season of the Witch in the anthology ideation of the franchise, and there exists 5 different continuities. So there's a lot to unpack in this, and that was a lot of films to watch and a lot to take into account when you're contrasting. As with all of these ranked movies, we're looking at the film quality, we're looking at the entertainment value, the effects. Is this movie scary? How good was Michael Myers in this movie? Which, okay, Season of the Witch has to suffer on that one a little bit. To come up with a numerical evaluation of all these movies. And that's how we rank from the absolute worst of the worst of these 13 films to the best of the best. And one of the things we're going to notice, like if we're talking broad brushstrokes, one of the things we're going to notice is early on, Halloween was the film that built the franchise around slasher movies or built the genre around slashers. And as we mentioned, so many from Friday the 13th to Nightmare on Elm Street began to try to emulate what John Carpenter did with the original Halloween. But what we're going to see is at some point the tables turned and all of a sudden Halloween was behind in the race and Halloween is trying to play catch up. So we're going to see that unfold as we kind of go through this series. I should mention, you might notice there's a new logo up in the corner, the Film Jury logo. We are in the process of launching a brand new podcast called The Film Jury, in which we will be reviewing movies in a roundtable discussion and passing verdict on these movies. And that is going to be launching later this month. So stay tuned for that. If you're interested in being a part of it, you can follow on Instagram. I believe it's Film Jury Podcast on Instagram, and you can connect with us there. If you're interested in being a film reviewer, you are welcome to shoot us a DM on Instagram. I'll put that in the show notes below because we want to have a rotating stable of jurors that can review movies with us in a roundtable discussion. All right. As always, I should mention, if you hit subscribe, it really helps out the channel. So thank you so much for that. All right. So we have to start at the bottom with all of these and work our way up. At number 13, unlucky 13, we have Halloween Resurrection, which I ranked at about 20% on a scale of 0 to 100. The biggest problem we run into, apart from the fact that this is just not a good movie, like there's really nothing redeemable about this movie, but it retconned the really fan-serving ending that H20 had, which came out in 1998. And it pays a complete disrespect to Jamie Lee Curtis, the Laurie Strode character, and everything that the fans had invested in this, and did a very, very cheap, rushed, and extremely gimmicky movie. I mean, house rigged up with webcams in the early 2000s. They're just trying to play off the success of the Blair Witch Project. They're trying to play off the success of, I don't know if Paranormal Activity had been released at this point, but definitely the Blair Witch Project, this idea of this found footage type vibe. And they did it so poorly. The acting's bad. The characters are bad. The frame of it's bad. It's just filmed really bad. The music's bad. The sound design's bad. It was so hard to get through this movie. It's not even so bad it's good. This is just bad. It's not scary. There's no suspense. And it ends up with a kung fu fight. Yeah. All right. Moving on to number 12, we have the most recent installment in the Halloween franchise, which is Halloween Ends. Um, this was the third in the David Gordon Green trilogy. And here's what I have to say about this movie, because this movie pissed people off so much because Michael Myers isn't really in it. He's not really the main antagonist in the movie. It's built around the character Corey, and building up the character Corey as the next version of evil. How does evil get created? Which that theme has been unpacked a handful of times in the Halloween franchise, and the idea of the torch being passed to another person has been floated numerous times throughout the series, as we're going to see. Here's the thing: if this were not a Halloween movie, if this were not a Michael Myers movie, if this was not following Halloween and Halloween Kills, the 2018 and its sequel, and the buildup we've had, and what they teased and what they promised with the conclusion of the Laurie Strode Michael Myers narrative. If this was not part of that, this was a C, maybe a C plus movie. Like the actor who played Corey and the depiction of how this character becomes evil. Was he born evil or was he made evil? And really kind of struggling with that. The actor who played this was so good, and the buildup was so well paced. But this isn't what we wanted in a Halloween movie, and especially not in a Halloween conclusion. If this were to exist, if this story were to exist in a Halloween narrative, it needed to be a film 2. We're not introduced to Corey until film 3 in this David Gordon Green trilogy. And at that point, we're ready for the conclusion, not for a new story arc. So this to me is indicative that when they said they had a trilogy, they didn't really have a trilogy planned out, and they were rushing to try to fill this third movie because of the success of the first 2. There's nothing in this movie that really connects to its 2 predecessors. They changed the Laurie Strode character. All of a sudden, she's playing something really different. It's not as well filmed as the other 2, which were filmed really well as homages to the original 1978. The scene that I do like about this movie, though, if we're ending with a positive on this, that opening scene, which is not a traditional or atypical, or I should say a typical Halloween opening. It's actually really good, and it's really creepy, and it really catches you off guard. Like I said, if this were not a Halloween movie, this is a C+ movie. And if this was to exist in the Halloween continuity, you'd need this in the middle of a trilogy, and then the third being the culmination of this character becoming pure evil. All right, moving on to number 11. We have Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. It's just called Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. No numerical number to it. I forgot how dumb this movie was. I mean, bad characters. It's cheaply made, and it looks cheaply made, like not like, the original, which was low budget and looks phenomenal. This looks cheap. This looks dated. It's one note in the characters. The characters are annoying. You cannot name one character in this movie. I don't care how many times you've seen it. You don't know any characters apart from Loomis. And Tommy, because he's from the original. But yeah, what's the mom's name in it? What's her parents' name? Her son's name, maybe you might remember the son's name. It's Danny, by the way. Paul Rudd is a dud. He's a monotone dud in this movie. This movie came out, I don't know if he filmed this first or he filmed Clueless first. They both came out the same year. It's kind of cinematic debuts in this kind of twofer. He's so bad in this movie. They really lean into this cult and the Thorn narrative, which you can tell they don't know where they're going with it because it doesn't go anywhere. There's 2 different cuts of this. One ends with Paul Rudd beating the bejesus out of Michael Myers with a pipe, and then it ends with you just see the mask on the ground and you hear Donald Pleasance screaming. Okay. The other is he traps Michael Myers with stones that have carvings on it. So he traps him with light. Didn't we see that in Hellraiser 4? Like it says, like at some point you start to see them copying other things. Michael's put on a lot of weight for this. This is a beefy Michael Myers. I would say not the strongest looking Michael Myers, but definitely hit the buffet. The one positive I will say about this is the kills are pretty brutal, and that can be kind of fun, I guess. The dad or the stepdad getting electrocuted till his head pops. Okay, that's funny. Um, but really, just a dumb movie. I forgot how dumb this movie was. All right, moving on to number 10. And we're all still bad. Like, I mean, these are all still being ranked in the 30s and below. We have Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Boy, sure, this is a brutal movie, but there's no story that this movie can stand on. The benefit, I will say, I'll lead in with the positive, is I think it does a decent job of showing the survivors and their plights in the aftermath of what happened in his original film, particularly the sheriff character, who's played by Brad Dourif, and his daughter's character, Annie, played by Danielle, just blanked on her last name. Oh my gosh, such a faux pas for Halloween. Danielle Harris. They did really well. They were about the only ones that did really well. The lead actress who plays Laurie Strode was bad in the first one, is not any better in this one. And what this really kind of reveals is Rob Zombie is just not good at writing characters, at least not any character who's not a white trash character. His wife, Sherry Moon Zombie, pulls this movie down just like she pulled down the last one. Just very confusing artistic choices. You could tell there was studio interference in this movie, but I'm not sure if it really mattered, because I don't know if Rob Zombie would have done better on his own or left to his own vices, which is why really nothing he's created in a while has done much of anything. The movie starts off with this scene at the hospital, which, is could be an homage to the sequel, the original from 1980, was it 81? And then all of a sudden, Laurie wakes up and it was a dream sequence. So you have this visceral, brutal opening, and then, oh, JK, it was a dream, or maybe it was a memory. It's not really clear, but it's just a disrespectful thing to kind of do to viewers and fans, to just kind of like all of a sudden the rug's pulled out for them. And the film quality dipped so bad from his first film to his second film. And then you just have this hillbilly Michael Myers with a giant beard screaming at the end of the movie. So it's the first time Michael is vocal in any of the films. It was really rough. I watched, this was the last one I watched. I held it to the end. Pretty brutal to get through. Okay, moving up to number 9, we have Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. And right off the bat, it's a frustrating movie to watch because they retconned what was a good ending in part 4. The characters are annoying in this one. They're cliche. This movie, out of any of the films, this movie is such a wannabe Friday the 13th movie. This is desperate to be a Friday the 13th movie, the success of Friday the 13th 4 and 6 and 7, and they are just trying to cash in on that. And they just don't do it well. There's tons of logic holes in this. Like, how is Michael Myers just hanging out in a cottage unconscious for a year? Is he eating? Is he going to the bathroom? I don't know. The film quality is not as good as the fourth one. The audio is really muddy in this. They're really leaning into this Man in Black, Man in Black, the Thorn storyline, which they continue in part 6, but it's clear they don't know where they're going with it because it's not that interesting. You just have really curious decisions, like Jamie being mute the first half of the movie and then abandons it at some point, and all of a sudden she can talk just fine as if there was no issue. It focuses on Tina as one of the main protagonists in the film, which she wasn't really that much of a character in the previous one. Why is she being heralded as the hero in this movie when she has no connection to Jamie's character, or not Jamie's character, the daughter's character at all, which makes no sense why she's even in this movie. This was rough. It did have a cool scene where It was Jamie, yeah, where Jamie's trying to climb up the laundry chute and hide from Michael Myers in there, and he's stabbing through the laundry chute. That was a cool scene. That was a really cool scene. But then it's followed with she's in the attic and there's like a million candles in the attic. Where was the candle? Like a lot of the Halloween movies have this like insane candle budget where people will light 50 candles to stage something. Like, is Michael Myers lighting these candles to stage this scene? It was so silly. And his mask comes off, and we're like, oh my gosh, what does he look like? And he just looks like an emo guy with long hair. Pretty bad. All right. Moving up to number 8. We're getting a little better here. We're still not over 50% in quality. We have Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. All right. So we're trying to return to the Michael Myers narrative after people were so upset originally by Halloween 3 Season of the Witch anthology take that, okay, we got to, the Akkads, we have to bring back Michael Myers. Right off the bat, we know something's wrong here because we're opening on farms. And I guess, yeah, Haddonfield is in middle Illinois. Fine. But then in at least one of the shots, you show mountains. There's no mountains in Illinois. It's flat. So where are we? And why are we leaning into this Farmville vibe? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't connect to either of the first 2 Halloween films. The music felt more like a trope and a gimmick as opposed to like the original score was so good. Donald Pleasance as Loomis. I felt like Donald Pleasance was trying to make the movie about his plight with Michael as opposed to anyone else's plight with Michael. And I don't think the director or the writers wanted that, but Donald Pleasance definitely seems to want it because everything seems to be about him. The filming was pretty off on this. They even used POV cameras in the wrong shots. Like, that was weird. Like, why are we using a POV camera in this shot when Michael's supposed to be somewhere else in this moment? Like, that doesn't make sense. It just was shoddily made, ultimately. Really bad sound design. The thing I will say is the characters were okay. The concept was strenuous, a little weak, but they're trying something. Here's the benefits. How good did Michael look in the bandages at that gas station? That was pretty cool. I think they should have leaned in with that way longer than they should have had him get his mask back, because the mask looks so bad in this movie. The town mob concept, which they explored in other movies like Halloween Kills, was really good. I thought that was a good idea. That was a interesting take on this, where the town has had enough of this evil in it and needs to react to it. And the ending is so good. That was such a good ending, which they completely retconned in part 5, which is so unfortunate. So for those reasons, like, this movie is getting up there, but I would not say this is a good movie. I would say this is still a skip. All right, moving on to number 7. We're just about halfway through in the rankings. The first movie I ranked over 50%. You have the 2007 remake by Rob Zombie, Halloween. 3 movies are called Halloween in this series. Here's right off the bat, like, you're just hit with the fact that this is not going to be your typical movie. You're going to have rock music kind of laced throughout, which is, typical of a zombie approach to it, with his background in music and, music video directing. But right off the bat, we get the idea that this is going to be about, at least in part, Michael's childhood. And we're going to try to put a narrative or a reason of how he goes bad. And I think what made the original so terrifying was the fact that you don't know. It just happened. This could happen to anyone. It could happen in your family. It could happen next door to you. It could happen anywhere. That's, I think, what made that so terrifying. And this one, we're just white trash everything. And the kid is obviously growing up in a very abusive scenario. Of course, who wouldn't? Like, that's not, we're kind of undoing the mystery here. Not kind of, we're just undoing the mystery here. And not well, I would say. It becomes very clear Rob Zombie is not a good writer. and he doesn't know how to write interesting characters or characters with depth or characters with nuance. These characters are one note characters. They're very annoying to watch. This is a very uncomfortable movie to watch, but not in a way that leaves you entertained. It's just uncomfortable to watch because it's so bad. The characters are so bad. They're so annoying. You don't like it. Sherry Moon's zombie is atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. I don't know how she could do so captivating in House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects and just completely be flat as Michael Myers' mother in this. But there's some positives. It was very well shot, I would say, from a cinematography standpoint, a camera work standpoint. They made some interesting choices when it came to how they filmed and camera movements, and especially like when they're shaking the camera when, Michael is making these transformations and really becoming evil. I thought those were all great choices. I mean, Michael as an adult is really creepy. The mask looks really terrifying. It's one of the scariest masks in all the films. You get into some of the characters later on, like, when he goes after Danny Trejo's character, there's an emotion to that. Like, you feel that. But ultimately, like, this is a gratuitous film, and I wouldn't say in a great way. I think there are ways to do it that still feel entertaining. And this, at some points, like, cut the scene, pan the camera. Like, this is just getting it's exploitative just to be exploitative. It was made in the torture corn era of cinema, where they're trying to now keep up with Saw and everything like that. But here's what's interesting about this film is it seems to be two movies. You have the first half of the movie, which is about Michael Myers as a kid. You have the second half of the movie, which is just a remake of the original Halloween, just crammed into 45 minutes. It should have just been one. Just lean into one. And I'm guessing, if I had to guess, Rob Zombie just wanted to do Michael Myers' childhood, but was forced to cram in the remake of the original Halloween. But ultimately, like, when you give such a reason behind this evolution into evil, it undoes what made it suspenseful. It undoes what made it captivating and something that sticks with you after. One last positive I'll say, Malcolm McDowell was so good on his take on Sam Loomis in this. I love the character. He was clearly smart and definitely played that Van Helsing type character where, he's kind of curious to hunt this down, but he's flawed and he's funny. And that line where he's talking to I think it was to the person at the cemetery who was like, "Hey, didn't the doctor write some book?" And he's like, "Yes, I read that book. It was brilliant." I mean, he's so good in this. It was unfortunate because they completely changed his character in the sequel, and it made it terrible in the sequel. All right. Now we start to get a little better, and I'm going to put this in. We have Halloween 3: Season of the Witch. I understand it's the anthology. I understand it's not Michael Myers. So if you're not interested in this one, you can skip forward about 90 seconds. This is a fun movie. Is it a great movie? No, I have it at 58%, but it's fun. It's a sci-fi mystery set on the date of Halloween. The music is really fun. The opening is still a pumpkin, but it's a digital pumpkin because we're now entering the computer age. It feels a little bit like John Carpenter's The Thing with its opening. The music felt a little Terminator-esque. It's a slow burn, but it's well paced. Tom Atkins does a good job playing an absolutely atrocious human being in this movie. The story, who cares what story? Wizards, robots, Stonehenge. All right. They yada, yada, yada over anything that explains what is actually happening. There's that one line, a good magician never reveals his secrets. Well, yeah, you could reveal some. They ask you just to go along with it, but it's fun. This is a fun movie. There's some really gross practical effects in this movie. That song will stick in your mind for the next week or two. I do have to point out the weird plot hole where they're asking all the kids to tune into the TV because they're releasing that signal. But they're kind of forgetting time zones, and like half the country's kids are probably going to be passed out in bed by the time they're airing this. But don't think too much about it. That's what this movie wants. They don't want you to think too much about any of this because you could just pull that thread. It's a fun movie. All right, moving on to number 5, we have Halloween H2O, which I hit it at 60%. Right off the bat, they open with the Mr. Sandman song, which is what ended Halloween 2, was the Mr. Sandman song. So what they're indicating is we are picking up right where 2 left off. This is the continuity. We are racing, well, 3's non-applicable, but we are racing 4, 5, and 6. And we want to pick up right where 2 left off. Speaking, which I thought was a great choice, like clever. They bring back the nurse Marion, who fans will recognize pretty quickly. Clever opening. But off that music, because we started with the music itself felt off. It didn't feel Halloween. It felt a little too like cheaply thrown together. It didn't feel so powerful. Like, and that's the thing about almost any John Carpenter movie, is how integral the music is to the film. This music did not match tonally with the movie. But this, Kevin Williamson had his hand in writing some of this, and it's very clear now they're trying to copy Scream. They're trying to be more of a meta horror film. I mean, even look at the cover. The cover design is emulated off Scream, with all the bit characters on the cover together. And who is that character? I'm now looking at this poster closely, and I'm just curious, who the heck is? That's just one of the female friends in the character. Like, you have Michelle Williams' character, yeah, Josh Hartnett, LL Cool J, but then you just have one of the other characters who is such a minor character in this movie on the cover. And I guess just because they wanted another female on the cover, such a strange person to put on the cover. I've never noticed that until right now. I feel like the guy, the male friend, had way more lines than she had. Weird. All right. Anyway, the biggest problem with this movie is it's pretty boring. Nothing happens. This is not a long movie. This is a very short movie. But for more than half of it, nothing happens. Like, you have the opening, which is good, and then nothing happens. Like, you just kind of follow the teens around as they bicker about like wanting to go on this field trip to Yosemite, which when they get the permission, then they're like, oh, we don't want to go to Yosemite. Okay, so why was that even part of this? The movie gets good. The movie redeems itself. Like, yes, there's a few wink, wink, nod, nods, like, Janet Leigh being in the movie, driving the car from Psycho, and the little musical interlude with Psycho. Like, it is very of its time. Like, obviously, like I said, like, this is trying to be meta horror, like Scream was. They're trying to play off that success. But nothing happens for so long in the movie. And when it does finally get to it, it's really good. It is really, really good. The last 15 minutes of this movie are great. I love the last 15 minutes of this movie, with the exception of I hate Michael Myers' mask in this movie. I know they use so many masks. The mask sucks. But when Jamie sends her son and his girlfriend off in the car, to get rid of them, it's just like she did in the original when she sent Tommy and Lindsay off, and then she has to face the shape on her own. So good. Like, they played that so well, so effectively. And then when she grabs the fire axe and is walking through the campus and is screaming his name and the music swells up, I got goosebumps when I saw it in theaters, and I got goosebumps watching it just this week. That showdown is so satisfying to watch. It is so, and the payoff at the end where she swings the fire axe and the head lops off, and then she doesn't open her eyes and she just closes her eyes and breathes. And the original Halloween, you end with Michael breathing. You hear Michael's breathing through the mask in the original Halloween as they're doing the different takes of the neighborhood. In this movie, you hear her breathing, and she doesn't open her eyes. She's breathing, and then it fades to black, and it holds that fade to black for several beats before the credits roll. Chef's kiss. I mean, what a great way to give the fans the conclusion that they deserved, who are fans of the original two films. It's unfortunate we just had to take like almost an hour to get there. All right. Number 4, we move on to Halloween Kills, the second in the David Gordon Green franchise. They definitely leaned into the word kills. This is the most brutal Michael out of any of them. They made the choice to not make this movie about Jamie Lee Curtis, to make this movie about the town, which we've seen in some of the other movies. I like it. I like that creative choice. It's bold. They're trying something different. They're not trying to do the same thing. They gave us the same thing in Halloween 2018. They're trying to do something different. I appreciate that. I think a lot of the people who played the townies were really good. I like that they brought back Marion. They brought back the actress who played Lindsay from the original. They recast Tommy's character as Michael Anthony Hall. He does fine, with the exception of his monologue at the beginning of the movie, which was really hard to get through and really hard to watch. This is a very visceral, brutal film. It does what Rob Zombie's films tried to do, but did it better, in my opinion. I like the idea of the swelling mob mentality. I really do. But boy, did they not stick the landing on it. It became corny. It's so corny with the evil dies tonight. It just soured the entire second and third act of this film. You're building up, and it just doesn't pay off. But there was care that was put into this movie. I mean, the opening scenes and the flashback scenes that look like they were filmed in 1978 are so good. And that's not a digital animation of Donald Pleasance. That's an actor wearing some makeup who looks like Donald Pleasance. And they hired another actor to do the voice. Like, it was done so well. Care was put into this movie. They just couldn't stick the landing, which is unfortunate. It is genuinely unfortunate. All right, moving up, we have at the number 3 spot, we have David Gordon Green's Halloween 2018, which picks off right off the original. So they've undone the continuity of 2 through whatever. I have this at 69%. I mean, the opening with the reverse pumpkins, so good. You could tell they're fans of the original Halloween movie, and they wanted something serious, and they wanted something that not only paid homage, but evolved. Lots of good scenes in this movie that not only are hearkened to the original film, from pacing to characters to the development of the narrative to how it was filmed to the lighting. So many good choices, and then so many confusing choices in this. The journalists were weird. It's such a plot device that only served to move the story forward and didn't really fit a purpose in it. Although their demise was really well filmed. I mean, the whole scene at the gas station, the bathroom, like from the second they pull up to the gas station to when that scene ends, is so good and creepy. Like when you're watching what's happening in the background, terrifying. Jamie Lee Curtis is amazing in this movie. This troubled, PTSD stricken survivor, and what that is like for her. The neighborhood tracking scene when Michael Myers gets into the neighborhood and starts going through, like brilliantly filmed, absolutely brilliantly filmed, and so scary. This is a genuinely creepy movie that is brutal and suspenseful at the same time. But then from that neighborhood tracking shot, they pan to a high school dance, and we're like, oh yeah, we still have these other characters we don't really know that much about, and they're not really well developed, and they're not that interesting, and the actors aren't that good. The Dr. Sartain character is not that interesting and is very obvious. Like, okay, yeah, obviously he's a bad guy. You know, as soon as you see him, you're like, all right, he's gonna He's going to turn heel. Um, they kind of promise that there's some answers coming, but no answers ever really come of why this is happening. Uh, and then Judy Greer, I like Judy Greer. I don't like her in this movie. I see Judy Greer on screen. I do not see a character on screen. When I see Jamie Lee Curtis on screen, I see Laurie Strode. When I see Judy Greer on screen, I see Judy Greer, and it's hard to separate that. So ultimately, like this movie, when I rewatched it, I can't say I loved it when I first saw it. When I rewatched it again, I wouldn't say I loved it now, but I liked it. I liked it a lot. This was a good movie. And here's the thing: if you've noticed, the Halloween franchise, for being so powerful in its opening, it's got a lot of bad movies. Has way more bad movies than it has good movies. And that's frustrating for being a fan of this movie, for being a fan of the character, that it takes so long to get to good movies, that we've had to put up with a lot to get to where we're at, which is the top 3. And the fact that the third film is as flawed as it is, and the third film is definitely flawed, and it's a very divisive movie. It's entertaining. There's a lot of good to it, but it has its flaws. I think that's frustrating as a fan. And I think that there are other franchises that have more films that are far more entertaining at the top of their ranked series versus not entertaining. And that leads us into number 2, which is number 2, Halloween 2, from 1981, which has a great continuity from the first one. It picks up the suspense, but amplifies the gore and the intensity and the violence and the visceral take that they're portraying on Michael Myers. The 80s score, which they evolved the score a little bit to fit the 1980s, I think was really good. The sound design is really good in this. They made this into, like, the first one was a prototype for slashers. This is a slasher movie, and it's a good slasher movie. It is well paced. It's creepy. Yes, it's the most dimly lit hospital in the world. The characters are copy and paste. The story's a little muddy, but man, this is a fun movie to watch, and it holds up as a fun movie to watch. This movie still is really, really good. Like, this is a solid C plus B minus movie. This is a good movie. It holds up. It's so fun to watch. And no one is surprised by number 1. No one is surprised by this. Anyone who would not put this movie as the best movie is, I don't know if loves this franchise. I'm sorry. But this is the prototype. Everything that followed is based off this. There's a reason that Friday the 13th exists. There's a reason that Nightmare on Elm Street exists. It's because of what was created by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill on a shoestring budget over the course of a few weeks, filming in California. It's because of what they created. And there's a tremendous amount of nostalgia that goes with this, and I understand that. But setting just the nostalgia and the member berries aside, this is a great movie. It is beautifully filmed. Care was put into it. The story's good. The acting is pretty good. The acting's good on Jamie Lee Curtis's part, and Donald Pleasance does really well in this movie and does okay in the latter movies and into starting to get bad. Like, I would say Donald Pleasance in 4 is worse. 5 is really bad. 6 is almost unwatchable. This is a masterclass in building suspenseful horror. I don't think there's a drop of blood in this movie outside of the original, like when he goes after his sister in the opening. That might be it. But yet it's terrifying. It's scary. It invented the jump scare with payoffs. Like, the pacing is excellent. The use of light and shadow is phenomenal. The fact that if you hadn't seen it, you're watching for the first time, you don't know what's going to happen or when it's going to happen, I think is so beautifully done. This is a movie I rewatch every year during this time. I love it every year. Clearly, the winner. I mean, there was no contest, in my opinion. So there it is. It's 13 movies. A lot of Halloween I crammed into the last week of my life. But let me know your thoughts. I want to know, because I bet there's a little bit of nuance in ratings, especially the fact that there are 5 different continuities. Let me know your rankings in the comments. Like, I love the discourse back and forth. Obviously, be respectful. But yeah, put your rankings in the comment section below. I love seeing them. Love your opinions. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next screening. Take care, everyone.